Hello. So today we're going to be developing an app that will be communicating with the ESP32. Except for this time, we'll be using Flutter, and it'll be communicating with an ESP32 end-to-end encrypted. So here I have the ESP32 already kind of set up for you. I've uploaded my keys through the data folder already. I've set up my constants. I've included all of the necessary libraries and packages, as well as successfully PCAM authenticated. I've also added all the library dependencies necessary for this to work. To get this set up, all you really need to do is head over to GitHub, our GitHub, Atsign Foundation, and head over to the README here, and then follow pretty much steps 1 to 5. So if you go over here to the table of contents, step 1 would be the prerequisites, which is get an @sign and an ESP32. Then setting up your project, then uploading your keys, then building and uploading your project, and then this is the important one, PCAM authentication. So if you don't have a similar output to what I have here on your ESP32, then I'd recommend following those steps before you move on. So this is kind of like the plan for today. We'll be first sending some data to the ESP32 from Flutter. So Flutter will send some data to the ESP32, and we'll do the same for the ESP32 to the Flutter app. The reason why we're doing this is so that the shared key will be initialized first, because the ESP32, as of right now, April 26th, 2023, cannot initialize any of the keys for that to happen. So it's really important that the Flutter device sends data to the ESP32 first. So let's just go ahead and get started. Here I have VS Code open. I'm going to open a random folder. So I'm just going to go here and just name it EF_Flutter. And that's just an arbitrary folder name, by the way. You can name it anything you want, as long as it's empty. Then we're going to go ahead and use @app. So I'm going to show you how to first get @app if you have Dart downloaded, which I assume you do. And if you don't have Dart on your PC, then you can get Dart by installing Flutter. Dart comes with Flutter. So once you have that, you can run this command, dart pub global activate @_app. So let me go into do not disturb. And then once you do that, you should have @app. And then you can do @app create, and then you specify a directory. In this case, I want to create an @app in the empty folder that I'm currently in. So I'm just going to put a dot. And it's going to create your @app project for you. And while that's happening, I'm going to open my iOS simulator so we can get app development going sooner. All right, and that's our @app created. So I'm going to go over here to the iOS simulator and go to device. I think it was device. It was window and stay on top, so that when I focus on VS Code, my iOS simulator still stays on top of all my windows, which is really useful. Then I'm going to type in Flutter run here, and then it'll run the app, our template app, for us on the simulator, so that we can check that everything is working just fine. While that's running, one thing I forgot to mention is that you'll need 2 @signs for this, which I think is pretty obvious. So you can get an @sign from my.atsign.com/go, and you can onboard them with either with our CLI tools or just through one of our apps like Atmosphere Pro or @Wavy that you can download either on your phone or on the Microsoft Store if you're on Windows, or the App Store if you're on Mac. But once you have that, you should have 2 keys. So here are what my keys look like. I have a lot of @signs, but the 2 we'll be using are Jeremy_0 and Tasteless Banana. Okay, and it looks like our Flutter app successfully booted up. So we're going to onboard an @sign here. So I'm just going to press this onboard and then upload backup key file. And I already have my keys uploaded to this simulator. So if you don't have this, you can go ahead and drag your key file into the simulator like this, and then it'll give you the option to save. Here I'll just say replace, And then there you go, your keys are uploaded to the simulator. You can go back to the app now and select those keys. And then when I open them, you'll see that the app proceeds and onboards successfully. There you go. We've successfully onboarded our @sign Jeremy_0. So back to my diagram here. On our ESP32, we're going to have tasteless banana, and on our Flutter app, we're going to have @Jeremy_0. The first step is to have Flutter write some data to the ESP32's @server. So we're going to go ahead and start writing some Dart code. So this is the current screen we're looking at here. This is what the code looks like. So you can see here, current @sign is @client.getCurrent@sign. Sorry, I had to sneeze there. We're gonna add a button. And on pressed, we're just gonna pass in an async anonymous function. And as for the child, we're just gonna have it be a text widget with some text that says do thing. So if I press R here in the console, it's gonna reload my simulator, and I should see the button pop up just like that. So if I press it, it's not gonna do anything because we haven't written anything in the function for it to do anything. So now that's our next step. The first thing I want to do is head up here, and just so I keep things kind of like simple for everyone, actually I'm not going to do that, sorry. Just to keep things simple, I'm going to work up here for all the things that we don't really need to run every single time that we click the button. So I'm going to change this to final, just because I don't plan to change it later on. I'm going to say const string ESP32 is equal to @tastelessbanana. So we're going to have some const @sign strings here. So this is the ESP32's @sign. And I'm going to have another @sign. I'm going to name it final string Flutter is equal to @client_manager. I'll say @client.getCurrent@sign. Like that. And I'm going to have a @client object here up as well through the @client_manager. Just like that. And we're getting an error because string here is not is nullable. So I'm just gonna explicitly say it's not null. And this would be something like @Jeremy_0. And we'll also need to specify a namespace. So Flutter, our Dart SDK enforces namespaces. So here in namespace, I'm just gonna say soccer0. Traditionally, namespaces are @signs. So you kind of need a third @sign, but at the end of the day, it's just a string. And then I'm going to build two @keys that we're going to work with. So the first @key is right here. It's shared by Flutter. It's shared with ESP32. The key name is num, and the namespace is soccer0. So I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to bring it over to my code here and write a comment. And I'm going to construct this @key. So I'm going to name it final @key. I'm going to name it shared with ESP32 is equal to @key, new @key object. It's going to be shared by the Flutter @sign, so Flutter. It's going to be shared with the ESP32 @sign, just like that. And then the namespace is going to be soccer0. And then the key name is going to be num. I guess I should have said this in order. So shared with is ESP32, the key name is num, and the namespace is soccer0, and then the shared by is Flutter, and then we end it with a semicolon. And then now we have to build the other key so that this app will get it, but we can skip that step for now. We're just going to focus on the first step, which is writing to the ESP32's @server. So now that we've built this key, we can go ahead and just write some data. It's as simple as @client.put, and then we pass in the shared with ESP32 @key that we created, and some value like init. And then we see here that put returns a bool, and it's a future bool, so we're gonna have to use await here to get the bool, and then this is success. So I'm gonna say write success, and then the value success. So let's go ahead and reload this and press the button and see that, oh, the write success was true. maybe you're not a firm believer of it yet, but we're just going to take that word and say that the write was successful. Okay. So let's go ahead and write the ESP32 code now. So the next step is for the ESP32 to not receive the value just yet, but to write some value to the Flutter app. So here I have my ESP32 plugged in and the C++ code open. After pkm authenticate, we're going to write some data. So here I'm going to say const auto @key is equal to new, or maybe I shouldn't name it @key, I'll name it shared with Flutter is equal to new @key. The shared by or the key name is the first parameter here. If I look at the constructor here, the first one is the key. So we said the key was num. The shared by @sign, we haven't specified those @signs yet. This is ESP32, and we also have Flutter, and the Flutter @sign was @jeremy_0. So the shared by @sign would be shared by ESP32 and shared with Flutter. I believe that's correct. They want pointers, so that looks good to me. We just need to change our variable name here as well before we forget. We got to change this one as well. So now we have this @key, which is essentially just an object specifying this string here. We did forget one thing, which is the namespace. So with the namespace, we do shared with _Flutter namespace string, or the arrow function because it's a pointer, equals soccer0, like that. And this was originally a constant variable. So if you run into an error with this, what you need to do is go over to platform.io.ini and update your client to 0.2.4, and then you shouldn't get an error anymore, hopefully. Right now I'm getting an error because I made this const, so we're just going to have it be auto. There we go. Now our next step is just to write the value, which is as simple as @client put @key shared with Flutter, and we're going to have a value of init. And it wants a value, not a pointer, so we're going to pass in the value. So now I'll hit upload and monitor, and then I'm going to put my ESP32 in download mode by holding down boot and enable. Then I'm going to let go of the enable button while still holding down the boot button, and that'll put it into download mode, where the ESP32 will then upload the code. Alright, it's successfully uploaded, and it is connecting to my internet. It's connected to the @server, and pkm authentication was a success. Now we'll see how the writing goes. Alright, it looks like we got a response of 98, which is the commit ID, so that is a very good sign, which means that we have uploaded the value. So now let's move on to the next steps. So the whole goal of my app here, which I guess I should have explained in the beginning, is for the Flutter app to send the data. ESP32 receives the data, increments it by 1, and then sends that back to the Flutter app, and then the Flutter app increments it by 1, then sends it back to the ESP32. So here's what's happening. Yeah, that's pretty much what's happening. Flutter sends a 0, the ESP32 receives a 0, adds 1, then sends it off to Flutter, then Flutter adds 1, and then Flutter sends the 2 to ESP32, adds 1, it becomes a 3, and then Flutter receives the 3, which is what we're going to program now. So we can start with step 1, which is ESP32 receives the value and increments 1. So here we have this key is primarily used for sending, but we also need a key primarily for receiving, which is going to look something like this: ESP32 num.soccer0 @Flutter. So this is a key shared by Flutter, shared with the ESP32. So let's construct with this key. It's shared with us. It's going to be a new @key named num. It's shared by ESP32. Oh no, it's shared by Flutter and shared with ESP32. Then we also have to edit the namespace to soccer0, just like before. Then we have to get the value. So that's as simple as @client get @key, and then we pass in the key, just like so. And we can use string to int to convert that number, and then we can store that number here, num, like that. And then even32 underscore t, like that. Then let's get a new number, or new num is equal to num plus 1. Let's print out these values. So current num is, let's do a new line, new num. Before we print that out though, we would want to write the new value. So I'm going to put that after here. And instead of putting init, we're going to put in the new num, which we would have to toString first, like so. So just to recap what just happened. So here we have to construct a key for sending, or for getting, sorry. The next step, once we have the number, we get the new number. That's pretty self-explanatory code. Then we construct a key for putting, and then we put it. And yeah. So the problem with this right now though is that if we get the value, which we've previously wrote over here on this side, that was sent to the ESP32, it'll just get the word init, and it'll cause an error because we're trying to convert this to an int, which is not what we want. So let's go back to the Flutter code, and let's send an actual value. So instead of sending an init, let's send a 0, and then let's do a hot restart. So I'm going to do Shift R in the console, which will do a hot restart. So then we'll have to onboard again, and then let's press the button. Looks like the write success was true, so that's a good sign. And now let's run the ESP code. So I'm going to upload and monitor, put my ESP32 into download mode, and if all goes well, it'll get this number. This will return 0, and then it'll convert it to an int, and then we can increment it, and then send that data back to Flutter, which should be a 1, because we incremented the 0 with 1. Alright, it looks like we got an error. So usually this happens when, if it just like interrupts itself randomly, it's probably a Wi-Fi issue. So if you have like a spotty connection, it just likes to stop. That's not a good sign. We'll let it run one more time, and then maybe I'll try upload and monitor again. Oh, there we go. It encrypted the data, and there you go. We got the current number from Flutter. So this is the 0 that Flutter sent, and then we sent. It looks like we successfully sent the 1. So now let's write some. Let's write some Dart code to receive that 1. So I'm gonna go ahead and comment out this putting code. So this is put code. This is step 2 technically. So we're gonna be writing step 1 again, or step 1 in Flutter. So now let's write some get code. First we're gonna construct the key. So this is the put key. Let's write the get key. which is the get key is shared with us, so at Flutter. Key name num soccer0 at ESP32 is shared with us. It's pretty much the C++ code, but you kind of have to switch your perspective around, because now you're in the perspective of Flutter and you're receiving it from Dart. So it's shared with Flutter, which is us, because it's get current atsign, and then it's shared by the ESP32, and then the namespace is soccer0, and the key is num. So now that we've constructed that, all we have to do is do await at client.get, share it, and you just pass in an at key, just like that. And you'll see here, at value returns, or get returns an at value. So all I want is the value, so I'll just type in dot value here at the end. So this is an at value object, and then calling dot value will give you the string. So what I want here is an int, so I'll say num is equal to this, but then we want to parse it like that. So dot value returns a string, and then we parse it with int.parse, so then we get an integer. And then we'll say new num is equal to num plus 1. And then let's print current num is our num, and new num is new num. Let's do a hot restart. All on board, and we'll press the button, and you'll see that we get the 1. This is the one from the ESP32, and the new num that we want to send, which will be in the put code here. So instead of 0 here, we'll put in new num.toString, and just like that, I think we should be good. I'll put this code after, just stay consistent, just like in our ESP code. So now that we've sent the 2 back to the ESP32, now it's the ESP32's turn to take that number and increment. So I'm just going to go ahead and press the enable button, which is the same thing as reset on the ESP32. So there you go. You'll see here that it says power on reset, so that's what kind of caused this quote-unquote error message, and it'll start running the code again, which is just running the setup block again on the ESP. So hopefully we don't run into any errors. Hopefully my Wi-Fi holds up. Alright, and that is not what I wanted to see. It received a 0. Okay, well, that was weird. Let's run the Flutter code and see what happens. So current num is 1, new num is 2. It should be getting this. It should be getting 2 now and sending out 3. So let's upload and monitor again, just in case. Okay, I think I know what's happening. So after we do the put, we didn't do a sync, so it's been writing to the local secondary this entire time. So to fix this, I think you'll have to do @client.syncserver.sync, just like that, and then let's do a hot restart. Sorry. So when ESP32 sends a 1, so the Flutter will receive the 1 and then make it 2, and then send that 2 to the ESP32, and then we'll have the ESP32 receive that 2 and then increment it to 3. I think that's what was going wrong. Alright, there we go. So I guess that was the problem. Here, ESP32 received that 2 that the Flutter did send, then incremented it into 3, and then sent that 3 over to Flutter. So now if I press this button here, Flutter should receive the 3 and then increments to 4 and then send the 4 to the ESP32. So I'll press the button here, and here we go. We do receive the 3 and now we sent the 4. And just to show you that I'm not lying, we'll receive the 4 here and then send the 5 to Flutter. And there we go. The code is working. So just going back to the design we had. The Flutter is sending a number to the ESP. The ESP increments the number, then sends that new number to the Flutter, and then Flutter increments that number, sends it to the ESP, and it goes on. So the way you do this is you have two shared keys involved. So one shared key lives on the ESP's at server, the other one lives on the Flutter app's at server. And then this key here, the reason why it's kind of like that is because whatever value this key has in here, it's specifically encrypted for the atsign that it's shared with. So in this case, the ESP32 is sharing data with Flutter. So that therefore, the encryption that's happening in the background, this value 0 or whatever value's in there, is specifically encrypted only for the Flutter app, and same with Flutter. This 0 is specifically encrypted only for the ESP32. That's why there are two shared keys involved in sharing data between those two. I also edited a little bit of code kind of off camera. So I just took the keys that we had up here in our build function and just put them inside of the onPressed function. So this get key here, I pretty much just moved it here. Same with this put key, I just pretty much moved it here. And yeah, that really ends our tutorial. I know some students were struggling with Flutter and ESPs, so hopefully this helps. And also doing gets and puts at the same time on both the app side and the ESP. So I think for that issue, you'd really want to make sure that you're not mixing up your shared by and shared with. If you want to edit keys, the shared by @sign should always be the same @sign as the @ server or the client.